Hello, thank you again for coming to my oral presentation on why HBCUs are important. Again, my name is Lorraine Ogletree, or Rain for short, and this is done for my college class, Perspectives on Diversity. All right, so I have a question for you today. Has any of you gone to an HBCU and why? Yes, sir. Can you tell us why you went to an HBCU?
Yes, I went to a HBU because it was one of the foundations of being a Black American. I went to Tuskegee Institute before they changed to Tuskegee University. At that time, we learned about Black history. We've learned stuff that you did not have in our regular public schools. So after going to Tuskegee, I've learned how to incorporate my life and teach others about Black history.
It's very interesting the fact that you said that it was teaching you about Black history as well as also teaching us about our rich culture. Because personally, I would say the reason that HBCUs are important is because of the deep rooted in our cultural history, and also the motivation that we have, that the students and the teachers actually have to excel academically, and more so the affordability of our HBCUs. Okay, so in order to actually say about that necessity of the HBCUs and also the why they're so important, you have to know what a HBCU is. So the HBCU, of course, as it states here, is an historically Black college and university, which there are 101 of those within across 19 states that we have right now currently. So as of in 1965, as you can see here, it says that we went through with the Title III of the Higher Education Act. Congress has defined it as any college or university of higher learning, or a school of higher learning that was accredited and established before 1964, and the principal mission was to educate African Americans. Now, the reason that was the reason that they were founded was because before 1964, there was we were still going through segregation, and it was illegal for us to go to predominantly white schools to receive a higher education. So a lot of reasons that we have when we go through, as he stated, it has a lot of our cultural history of African Americans. Many have no fear of discrimination because in our predominantly white schools, you'll notice that when you try to excel, sometimes you're met with a glass ceiling, and then you don't want to continue to excel because you have that hatred or discrimination that you may feel from other ethnicities that are going to that school. Many want to use the smaller classes to be able to be motivated when they excel academically. And also, we have the affordability, of course, because there's many scholarships to go to the different schools of HBCUs, because a lot of them, the HBCUs, are STEM schools. And also, we also have the recruitment from the graduates for HBCUs that go with our STEM schools. And this particular HBCU partnership challenge that we have was just started by Congressman Alma Adams. She is from South Carolina, where she has partnered with many different companies to be able to use all of those HBCU graduates in all of the different STEM fields that we use. So while we're looking at our financial status, you'll see that there are more than 75% of students that go to any type of college here within the United States. They have at least 75% of those, they use Pell Grants. They also have the Plus Scholarship loans, which can be anywhere that use only partial amount of their tuition to the full amount of their tuition. According to Sarah Wood with the U.S. News, most Black graduates as a group owe more than $25,000 more than our white counterparts. So that is one of the biggest things about HBCUs that they afford, is that they don't cost as much. For an example, our school here in Atlanta has with Spelman College, their fees were for tuition for both the fall semester and the spring semester was only $28,181, as according to a predominantly white school here in Atlanta, Angus Scott College, that was $44,250 for a yearly tuition. So with that being said, you know, even though we're still using the financial aid, there's still the less probability that your loan that you'll be saddled with at the end of the year is not going to be as high when you're using it for an HBCU. And then we also have the motivation that we go through, that we use with our small classes that are at HBCUs. You'll be in a different type of community that you'll feel, and that community is, of course, it's going to help you stem. They're going to look like you. They're going to be able to understand some of the hardships that you've gone through, and with those hardships, they'll give you ways to be able to deal with some of the issues that you've had, to be able to get through with those colleges, and it leads to the decreased physiological issues, your increased self-awareness, and when you have those, the less amount of psychological issues of those we have, or the depression, because you're able to you're being accepted and you're fitting in, and also with your self-awareness, you're able to look at what you're learning in school and be able to apply it to your everyday life, like our participant here was able to do with his school with his schooling and interpreting it into school, into his life, and be able to pass that down onto different generations that we're seeing now. So that's also given us with the higher retention rate in a specialized field, because when I'm looking, we're seeing we have a lot more African American engineers, a lot more nurses, and we're also seeing a lot more of African American teachers. All right, and so as we said that we're coming here to a close, I just would like to state how our HBCUs were very important, because those students were enriched by that deep-rooted culture of African Americans. Not only that, those teachers were excelling, they were motivating them to excel. They weren't having any type of hardships too much, to the point where the academics, where they didn't want to excel academically. But of course, we also touched on our financial risks, our financial ability to keep able to move forward. So the HBCUs were also more affordable to those average students. So those low income and those first generation students, they're able to go to school more often, and be able to participate in more classes because of the lower tuition that we did have with those. Does anyone else here have any other questions that they would like to ask about our presentation today? Yes, sir.
Yes. Since most HBCUs, they did a lot of things within our communities. Besides having a secondary school, we also encouraged ourselves as classmates between all the different colleges to go further in school. So it encouraged us to also get our masters, go get doctors. And as you know, within our community in itself, we have a lot of people that went to the Congress, and we have a lot of people who also were doctors, lawyers. We had the genre of all the education and the fields. And when they stepped into these points, they were the first in a lot of cases, which also brought on a lot of different connotations of different struggles. But knowing these struggles, they persevered. And a lot of us are still trying to teach our youngs how to progress in a difficult field, so that you will be monetary and physically able to progress in your career field.
Okay. Yeah, I thank you for that. So is there a question in there?
Good.